New York and on the new Hot 97 app. Ebro in the morning on Hot 97.
Ebro in the morning. No Laura Stiles. That's not Laura Stiles.
Nope.
But that's Rosenberg. Nice leather jacket.
Thank you. And the 1987 Ric Flair vintage. Just
not as nice a leather as Carmen Perez has on right now. New mom,
Butter
Carmen
suede.
Perez in the building. Justice League NYC and Jay Jordan. How you doing, man?
Blessed.
You good? Now, you guys are married. You guys are the new union in social justice reform on a
And
national
new parents
level.
as well.
And new parents as well.
congratulations.
Congratulations on that. Amazing.
Thank you.
And you guys are right back to work right after having a baby. So, Carmen, how do you feel?
I feel good. He was on calls while I was in labor. I mean, people have no respect nowadays. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have no boundaries.
How
no.
dare you not stop what's going on between you and the police
No,
out
but it's
there?
my fault. You know, we live and breathe social justice, and so we're co-producing and collaborating and working on a concert that's coming up on October 21st.
Yeah, no, you guys have, I'm honored to be involved and be one of the hosts along with Yessie Ortiz, live performance from Nipsey Hussle and Ty Dolla $ign, the Time Done concert going down at the Greek Theater in L.A., October 21st. I got the date right?
Yep.
Now, Jay, you very active in California specifically with criminal justice reform, and this Time Done concert is bringing awareness to what?
70 million people in America have convictions. That's more people than the entire country of France, right? If 70 million people were to hold hands and stretch out, we can circle the earth 3 times. Right, that's how many people, and it's a residual effect of the war on drugs and tough on crime era, right? If you think about like Hurricane Katrina, right? We can picture in our head like the visceral images of people on the bridge, on top of roofs, in the Superdome, right? You know what I mean? But what we don't talk about is the collateral consequence of what Hurricane Katrina did, right? The displacement, the uprooting of culture, right? The same thing with the war on drugs and the tough on crime. We processed in a massive amount of people, and we built a huge bureaucracy, right, around processing convictions. And the result of that is 70 million people. Literally 1 in 4 people in America have a conviction. In California, it's about 1 in 5, right? And most of those people are black and brown, right? And not only do they have convictions, but they face 40,000 legal restrictions after they serve their time. So this is not like while you're on probation or parole. This is years after you serve your time. You serve 40,000. You are forced to have 40,000. We call them collateral consequences on your life, right? 78% are lifetime bans, and 53% are employment related.
What are some lifetime bans? Can you give us any examples of things like that?
So like me and Carmen can never adopt, right? We just had a son, Thank God, right? I could never coach a Little League team.
For what conviction?
For a robbery.
For a robbery.
14 years ago.
14 years ago.
Yeah. I could never join the PTA. I can't volunteer to school. I can't ride on the bus with him. I can't become a lawyer, a doctor, a dentist. I can't become a dog walker. I can't be a bingo caller. I can't sell cars. I can't sell real estate.
Does this hurt your bingo calling dreams?
Yeah, it does. It does. B7.
Major setback.
B7. You have a great point. Yeah. No, but that's really crazy because people don't ever think about how much that affects you.
And they're not told. They're not told. Imagine when you go and you take a plea, right? You're in court and what is it called? Your public defender is telling you need to take this plea. It'll get you less time. You are not told that you have these collateral consequences. And we were having a conversation. I was like, I don't think attorneys even know that there are these restrictions. And so it's important to bring this concert not only as the beginning phase 1 of an awareness campaign, but to really bring people who are impacted to the table to be part of the conversation.
The Time Done concert, October 21st, Nipsey Hussle, Ty Dolla $ign. Hosting will be me, Yessie Ortiz, put together by Justice League NYC and your organization, which is?
Californians for Safety and Justice / Alliance for Safety and Justice.
And so this concert brings awareness to this issue. We'll be talking about it. We'll be celebrating and having music. And, it's always a great way to introduce people to really deep issues with music, right? And bringing people together around, enjoying themselves, but also giving them a dose of the real medicine, right? But what happens after this concert? Because that's the long haul, right? Like in all of everything that we're trying to change in this country is a long-term process. And it takes us all to be engaged for extended periods of time. And sometimes when we're talking about these things, we talk about the moment, but we don't also then tell people how to check back in and how we're going to disseminate information to make sure people can keep up because they have a lot going on.
Yeah. So at the concert, you know, there's 4 meta messages we want to get out, right? One, you know, how many people this impacts? 70 million across the country, right?
Which is a staggering number.
It's 70 million. And who they are. They are mothers, fathers, grandmothers, grandfathers, aunties, uncles. These aren't just those people. These are our family members.
And Ebro, you will have
us.
to read a list of all these names.
All the names.
Yeah,
It's
all
going
of
to
them.
take some time.
You'll get focused.
Can I get the list early?
Yes, you can. 48 hours, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is the amount of barriers they face. I mean, 30 years down the road, right? And we want to make sure that people understand that right now, right, there isn't a way that you can remove the conviction. If you get a governor's pardon, it still pops up. If you get an expungement, it still pops up. If you get a certificate of rehabilitation, it still pops up. If you get a presidential pardon, it still pops up, right? There's no way to get rid of this. You die with this. I'm literally going to die with a conviction. You know, there's no way to get rid of it, right? And you face 40,000 collateral consequences that are, you know, just impacting people's lives, families. And then we want to talk about the impacts of those collateral consequences, right? Not just on the individual, but the families, and then the community, and then the economy, right?
Is this really a conversation for the 70 million people affected, or are we trying to get people who love to say things like, well, don't commit crimes then?
Yeah.
Right? Because there's 70 million is, you know, only what? Do the math. A quarter of the population, not
25%.
quite. Yeah?
25%.
25% of the population. So 75% of the population is going to go, well, don't commit a crime. Are we really trying to appeal to those people, or are we trying to get the people who are affected by this to understand that you need to, you know, galvanize and create a movement so that people see you, understand that you're a human being and you may have made a mistake in your life, but you also deserve an opportunity to expunge and clear your record?
So 2 things, right? One, yes, 70 million people need to, you know, register to vote and vote our interests, right? 2, it's more than 70 million. Carmen doesn't have a conviction, right? So think about the wives of us, the husbands of us, right?
The
So
sisters.
that's you know, 35 million of that 70 million have kids,
Right.
right? So add those into the mix, right? And not only, you know, the people who don't know someone with a conviction, get this. 3 of the 5 fastest growing industries in California that drive California's GDP restrict people with convictions. Out of the 100 fastest growing occupations in California, 90 of them ban people with convictions. What did that do for our economy, right? America loses $87 billion annually in gross domestic product because we lock people out of the workforce. Now, how much tax dollars are going towards social services, towards, you know, calls to service, towards homelessness?
So you're
right?
basically saying it's financially beneficial for governments and institutions to figure out a way to get people back to work. That's more beneficial long term than it is to continue to criminalize individuals
course.
and lock them up.
Yeah, and being able to take care of their families, right? It's not just back to work. It's like, you know, I want to participate in my son's life unrestricted. I should have that, right? My son needs that. And so
But
it's
if
like,
they want you to participate in your son's life unrestricted, because they might want to restrict that, because then that long term creates an emotional issue with your son, and also they could criminalize him. So some of these things come down to who do you want to be? We talk about that a lot as far as American society. Like, we're at that crossroads where it's like, yo, America, who do you actually want to be? Do you want to be a society that continues to criminalize and create traps for people to become criminals really easy? Or do you want to actually culturally adjust, right? And figure out ways to help people, whether they had a hiccup here or there, try to get back into the workforce and be a great contribution to society.
Not to mention the amount that likelihood for ending up in jail again.
Recidivism.
There's just the odds are so much higher. Not only because if you were arrested for something, be it maybe, you know, parole violations and things like that, but more so if you're unable to work, the likelihood for getting desperate and putting yourself in desperate circumstances, of course, ends up going up. It's harder to get a home. All these factors lead towards Recidivism.
Yeah, and it leads towards abject poverty, right?
Yeah.
So what happened is, so you back of the envelope math, right? And this is not official. I'm just doing back of the envelope math here, right? 70 million people in America have convictions, right? There's 2.3 million people in prison or jail. 6 and plus million people in prison, jail, probation, or parole, right? Add another, let's say, 2 or 3 million to that are cycling in and out the justice system. That's about 7 or 8 million people. There's 70 million. The majority of us, about 90% of us, are far removed from convictions, have been living, struggling, trying to take care of our family. And so the narrative and the conversation is being controlled by a very small percentage of people with convictions. What we're saying is there's a lot more people, there's a lot more fathers and grandmothers and aunties that haven't committed crimes in decades, and we are still right under the gun of the justice system, even though we have no public safety threat whatsoever. Studies show that after 5 years of being crime-free, you're just as likely to commit a crime as someone who's never committed a crime to begin with. And so if the question is public safety, if that's the the
argument,
the argument of why we shouldn't be able to take care of our family and get a job,
even though that doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
but
even though that doesn't make sense. If that's the argument, right, then it doesn't hold water. Because studies show that after 5 years of not committing crimes, you're just as likely to commit a crime as someone that never committed one to begin with.
Because you're completely removed from it, and mentally the idea of doing it is...
And this is really a return on investment, right? If we invest now, we will see that people will be participating citizens in this country. But
once again, America, who do you want to be?
Right.
Basically, you want to be bad or good. If you want to be good, you want to help people. And if you don't, you're like, no, I'm going to set the trap, so...
And I love that, right? I love that question because it then, forces us to ask the question, as a taxpayer, right? I'm a taxpayer, right? I'm a homeowner.
Oh, they still let you pay taxes, though.
They still let me pay full taxes.
A lot of taxes. A lot of taxes.
Right. Yeah. So as a taxpaying citizen, we all want to be safe. That's the shared value, right? We want to be safe. We want to be able to take care of our families, right? If I'm paying taxes to a system, the justice system, right, and they're supposed to protect us, rehabilitate folks, keep us safe, et cetera, and yet, this system, right, that we're all paying taxes into, tens of billions of dollars, right, is not keeping us safe, but on the contrary, restricting people and creating this bubble of unsafety in communities. Why are we paying taxes into the system, right? And so that's the question, who do we want to be? And as taxpayers, do we want to keep paying into the system that is contradicting itself on the back end?
Well, I don't think people actually are able to wrap their brain around the numbers, the staggering numbers that you just provided us, right? Because when you start to actually look at the numbers, what you're saying is we're paying taxes into a system that is completely broken and failing the population, because why would this many people be locked into a system that's not helping them contribute, right? Because that's what you would think would be the ultimate goal, is to create an opportunity, right, for everyone to be able to participate in some way, not create restrictions because you made a mistake, right? And once again, who do you want to be? Do you want to be a place where people can actually get their footing again and provide for their families and try to be better men and women? Or do you want to create a place where there's this ongoing cat and mouse game of, criminality and pipelining people to jail and privatizing prisons and militarizing police and creating this whole cloud of violence? And, because that's where this ends up going, right? Yep. That's why I keep saying we're at the crossroads, right? We literally have police who are more or as armored as military, right? People who are in neighborhoods dressed like they're in Afghanistan, walking around with weaponry to go to war while they're policing.
We saw that in
citizens.
Ferguson.
Right.
I mean, and we saw that in Baltimore, right? And we're seeing that here in New York on the streets, right?
Yes.
Now they have that new unit, that special unit where they put together protesters and terrorists, right? So we're seeing that all over the country. Mm-hmm. So as we see that escalate, there's something else out there for, people who are directly impacted, but also elected officials, right? I think what's happening is that we don't even know. We do lazy politics, right? So people will have a Jay Jordan come and talk to them about the issue. They'll come knocking on our door to meet with us, but then they're gone the whole time that they're actually in office, right? But to really have a relationship, and that's why I think it's important, not only for people who are directly impacted, because I'm directly impacted, right? Brother in and out the system, family members out the system. Now my husband is somebody who has a conviction. However, there are people who are working on this issue who have never been impacted, and we need everybody at the table. It's not just about elected officials or people who are directly it's about business owners, right? People who have the opportunity to hire folks with convictions. It's about individuals.
You know who wants a job?
Who?
People who have convictions and are really trying to take care of their family. They want to work. They want to work hard. And their job means something to them.
And a
Like-
lot of them are not activists, right? They're not activated yet. I know people who have convictions who are just trying to survive, right? And those are the folks that are listening to this station. Those are the folks that are listening to Nipsey Hussle. Those are the folks that are listening to Ty Dolla $igns. It's the reason why you engage them through music and then you send a message.
Yeah.
I also think Ty Dolla $ign would be happy that you gave him more signs, too. She said Ty Dolla $igns.
Oh, really?
Plural signs.
Yeah.
It's
Give him
only
an extra-
one sign.
Give him an extra sign.
Throw another
These
sign
days,
on
he's
there,
doing well.
son.
He's got an extra sign.
He's got
He
extra
got
signs.
extra signs.
Time Done concert, October 21st, the Greek Theater, Los Angeles. Yessie Ortiz, myself, Justice League NYC, Californians for Safety and Justice.
The Gathering for Justice.
The Gathering for Justice, and Nipsey Hussle will also be there.
Yeah, as well as we have Guapale, my son from the Bronx.
Yeah.
We
Yo,
have.
shout out to my son out here doing work. I know on Monday he's going to D.C.
No, he's in DC right
Oh,
now.
he's there
today?
already?
Yep. He's in. Yep.
He wasn't arrested yesterday?
He's been getting arrested. So he's
For good cause, though.
Yeah,
For good
he's
cause.
out there.
Yeah.
He called out all the men to join him as allies to
Yeah.
support the women regarding Kavanaugh.
He started that movement to get men out there, and now I see a lot of high-profile A-list celebrities jumping on. You know what I mean, and headed down to D.C. because this Brett Kavanaugh Supreme Court justice thing has really gotten people galvanized. And as Rosenberg, you pointed out on the show, Brett Kavanaugh has people that he went to college and high school with that are like, nah, we don't know anything about his sexual assault, but he's a fucking drunk.
And a liar. And
a
lying,
liar.
And lying about his behavior.
Yeah.
He at least was a drunk. And the fact that you lied about that under oath, to me, shows that you should not be the highest judge in the land for the rest of your days on earth.
I mean, but his reaction. Did you see
That
his
too.
reaction?
Imagine in an interview, someone talking like, yo, listen, hold on, why are you asking me questions?
I love
Right.
beer, right?
I love beer. Stop.
Bro, he was being interviewed for a job. The lady asked him a question. He was like, Are you a drunk? She was like, well, sir, my
I have a
my
family
father
issue."
is in AA and he's 90 right now. Why are you asking me this? You're the one.
Right.
Yeah.
It was also the heights of white privilege, but he's just a terrible candidate
Were you
for
gonna
this
say
job.
D-nozzle? Douchebag.
Any of those works, but it's. I'm glad to see people out there fighting it, and we don't know if it'll happen. But if he does get it, I hope people keep the same energy. So if the Democrats take the House and Senate, he could be impeached because there's probably a higher likelihood he could get impeached than Trump. So it would be nice to see people keep this energy about it. 'Cause
We also
he's-
got Linda and Tamika out there,
Shout out to
starting-
Linda Southshore and Tamika Mallory for
Yeah,
sure.
so I wish I was out there, but we out here doing this. And we also have Jackie Cruz.
Listen, you just had a baby.
You don't need to
can't
don't
be
get arrested
everywhere.
yet. You can't get arrested yet.
I was arrested while I was pregnant.
Yeah, but now you have the baby and you're breastfeeding. Let's, you know what I mean? We gotta-
Yeah.
While you were
No.
pregnant, you could bring the baby to jail with you. It was kind of different, but then you can't
Yeah,
risk that.
yeah. I know. And Linda was calling Jay like, yo, I'm sorry, but, I'm taking her to get her nails done and I'm taking her to get some
yeah.
food. He was like, what? Y'all are arrested? But so we also have DJ Cassidy, who's
Yes.
going to be out there with us on October 21st. We have Jackie Cruz, who has transitioned while she's still on Orange is the New Black, and she's also a musician. We have Guapale from the Bay Area,
Yep.
one of my faves. And we have
John Forte.
Shout out to John Forte, too.
And Voices of Destiny from Compton, a dope choir.
I'm not hip.
From Greater Zion,
Okay.
Greater Zion Church family. Shout out to the pastor, Michael Fisher. Amazing young man. He's doing amazing work in Compton with the mayor out there, Asia Brown. So
And shout out to Asia Brown, too. Just had a baby also. Yeah, so a lot of babies out here. A lot of babies
Yeah.
on the way.
Yeah.
You know what
And
I
so
mean?
speaking about like Democrats and Republicans, right? Like one of the things that this issue, like we can all agree on, and not just Democrats, Republicans, but like law enforcement and people with convictions, we all agree on this issue.
Yeah.
Right? You go to a Republican.
It's not a partisan issue.
Yeah, it's not. It's like, someone served their time, they're 10 years removed. What do we do with them? That's where we want to start. Like 5 years after you get off probation and parole, what should you be able to do in society? Most people be like, you should be able to work. You should be able to take care of your family.
Yeah, and by the way, it's not like you can't have delineations for level of crime.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If it was child molestation, if it was something, you could delineate the crime they're convicted for. We're talking about a robbery as a 20-year-old, and you're a 38-year-old. I'm making up your ages, and you're a 38-year-old man. You know what I'm saying? Like people act like, well, what do these people do? They're dangerous. It's like, well, why don't you look? Most of them aren't dangerous.
No, we're directors, executive directors. We are contributing to society, and that's the thing is the fact that a lot of these folks are actually doing something with their lives, right? They're not what we think of this scary criminal. We really have
people
to
picture the worst.
counteract that narrative. Yeah.
Yeah, and solution based. You asked me about the solution at the beginning. I wanted to wait until kind of we got into it, but it's pretty simple, right? We call it sunset convictions. Portugal does it. The UK does it. A couple other countries do it.
Explain sunset conviction.
So, after you get off probation and parole, right, there should be a acknowledgement that you have completed your entire court-mandated sentence, right? And you should be able to go and get a professional license, right? You should be able to go and be a carpenter or go to nursing school, so on and so forth, right? After a crime-free period, you should have your record sealed so you can do more things with your life, right? And so that's all we're trying to do.
Is create a process.
Is create a process that is simple, that's equitable, and it is in line with public safety, right? And so after the concert, we're asking people, the call to action is go and sign a pledge, right?
What's the website for
timedone.org. Go to timedone.org, sign the pledge, right? Put your name to the movement. We want your voice. We don't want your money. We want your voice. We want your name. Because then in 2019, we're launching a massive public education effort, right? This is what this concert is about, right? We want to go to the hood, right? And say, if you got a conviction, let me tell you, about the conviction. A lot of these cats just don't know why they're still in poverty, don't know why, they go to a job and they can't get a job or, so on and so forth. So we want to launch a massive public education campaign to educate people with convictions, to educate the normal voter, to educate business owners, to educate educators, right? To educate legislators, because you think that legislators and law enforcement would know this. We have an advisory committee, right? We pulled together an advisory committee to help us do research last year. The Second Chances Advisory Committee. We got 2 police chiefs, we got a judge, we got a probation chief, we got public defenders, we got about a dozen people with convictions that run organizations, right? And we spent 6 months doing participatory research. So we pulled all the research from all around the country, all around the world on people with convictions, the impacts, right? And some solutions. And we had it out for 6 months. I mean, just think about that. You got police chiefs and probation chiefs and people with convictions and judges in a room talking about people convictions and impact they have on community and the economy. What we came up with is called, it's a white paper, it's a research paper. You can find it at timedone.org. It's called Repairing the Road to Redemption, right? And what we found, the first day that we had the meeting, my guy, Terrence Stewart, stood up and he was talking about how he broke the cycle of gangs and prison in his family. He went to jail for a drug conviction in the 90s. He got out, enrolled in Compton College, got his AA, went to UCR, UC Riverside, right? Yeah. Got his bachelor's, then his master's, right? Met his soon-to-be wife, married her, had a kid, right? Got a job, paying taxes, got a good credit score, right? And when he was having his second child, his first son, he was homeless because no one would rent to him, right? And here's a guy with a master's degree. And then when his wife's brother got into some trouble, right? And their daughter was going to go into foster care because the dad got locked up.
Couldn't adopt her.
They couldn't do a kinship adoption, right? And so, the system got his
foster care.
Yeah. Luckily, they stopped it right before. But those are the type of implications we're talking about, right? So he stood up in this meeting with the advisory committee, the first meeting we had, right? And then after he sat down, the police chief, the assistant police chief, shout out to Eric from Oxnard.
That's right. That's where I'm from.
He he shot his hand up. Now I'm like, oh shit, here we go. This is the first of many, just have it out. And the guy had tears in his eyes. And he's like, my 20 years in law enforcement, I didn't know that giving someone a felony does this. And I'm like, you're assistant police chief. You should know this. He's like, I didn't know this. That
they know their job. They don't know all the layers.
Exactly. And he said his job was to get people felonies. Like they got, DAPs and
they want you to get
they
want convictions.
The more felonies they got somebody, the more, accolades they got from their colleagues.
Because
and
then that justifies the crime, whatever the crime rate is.
Back to a whole thing we also covered this
quotas
week.
and, everything that's going on in a lot of states and cities is the fact that cops are incentivized to get convictions. Mm-hmm. They don't know why. It's directly related to the crime stats, which then the mayor and the chief of police get all these bonuses, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. But they don't even know what they're doing to people's lives.
And
they're just doing their job.
Yeah, and that's what we want to have conversation with law enforcement and saying, hey, we're not saying don't hold people accountable. If you mess up and you put harm in the community, although, I'm not an abolitionist, right? I believe that there should be some accountability, whatever that means, right? We're not saying don't hold people accountable. We're not saying, don't put people on probation or parole. What we're saying is after you do whatever you do, right?
It's over.
It's over.
And you served your time and you've gone through the steps, and then the sunset convictions, hopefully, sunset conviction will create steps and a process for people to get their lives back in order.
Yeah, and not what's currently being proposed by some legislators, not what's currently in the books to where it's like, let's make sure they can, work at Rayleigh's. Let's
real jobs.
Yeah, like real
careers.
Right. Yeah.
Or any supermarket for that matter. Time Done concert, October 21st. Jay Jordan, Carmen Perez, Jordan? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hyphenated.
Yo, it was a pleasure talking to you guys. Are there any tickets left at the Greek Theater?
Yes.
There's a few left. Go get them. Time Done concert. Look for it. Nipsey Hussle, Todd Outside, myself, Yessie Ortiz, and many more. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.